In a small town where dusty streets stretched endlessly, where the smell of burning wood mixed with the cries of children running barefoot, life was hard. It was a place where children woke up not with dreams of school, but with the reality of work. Some carried bricks on their fragile shoulders, some sold flowers at the corner, and others simply wandered, their innocence fading too soon under the weight of poverty. Yet in the middle of all this hardship, there was one man who saw more than just children struggling. He saw untapped potential, bright futures waiting to shine, and small hearts longing for a chance. His name was Rehan. He was not wealthy, nor was he someone with influence. He was just a simple man, working as a clerk in a government office, earning enough to live a modest life. But what set him apart was the fire in his heart, a fire that burned whenever he saw children carrying heavy loads instead of books, whenever he saw them gazing at schools from outside the gates as though they were forbidden castles. He remembered his own childhood, how he once longed for education but had to drop out when his father passed away. Life had been cruel to him, but he promised himself that one day, he would not let life be so cruel to others. One morning, as he walked past a small tea stall on his way to work, he noticed 3 little boys sharing a single notebook. They were writing with broken pencils, each taking turns, struggling to learn alphabets. Their clothes were torn, their eyes tired, yet their determination was unshakable. Rehan stood still, watching, his heart breaking. He wanted to help, but how? He could not pay for expensive school fees. He could not sponsor them all. But he thought maybe, just maybe, he could do something small. That evening, after work, he went to the marketplace. He bought 3 school bags. Not the fanciest, just simple bags with zippers and straps strong enough to carry books. He added a few notebooks, pencils, and crayons. It wasn't much, but to him, it was a start. The next morning, he returned to the tea stall, where the boys sat as usual. With a smile, he handed each of them a bag. At first, the boys looked at him, confused. No one had ever given them gifts before. They opened the bags, their eyes widening in disbelief. Their laughter filled the air, and in that moment, the dusty street glowed with joy. Rehan did not realize that this small act would spark something far greater than he had ever imagined. Soon, other children began to gather. Word spread quickly that a man was giving bags with notebooks and pencils. Some came shyly, others with excitement. Rehan found himself surrounded by children whose eyes begged for the same chance. He did not have much money, but he could not ignore them. So, he began saving. He cut down his own expenses, skipped tea at work, walked instead of taking the bus, and slowly collected enough to buy more bags. Week after week, he distributed them. Each child who received one bag felt not just the weight of books but the weight of hope. For the first time, they had something to call their own, something that made them feel equal to the other children in schools. For the first time, they dreamed. But Rehan's story did not stop there. Soon, teachers from local schools began noticing these children. Some of the children, inspired by their new bags and books, insisted on joining classes, even if it meant sitting on the floor in the back. Teachers, moved by their determination, allowed them in. What started as one man giving out a bag became a movement where children began to believe they deserved education. One day, as Rehan was walking home, a little girl ran up to him. She held his hand tightly and said, "Uncle, thank you for my bag. Now I can become a teacher." Her words echoed in his heart. That night, he lay awake, realizing the magnitude of what he had done. He hadn't just given her a bag, he had given her a vision for her future. He had planted a seed in her mind that she could be more than what her circumstances dictated. The community soon noticed. Parents who once thought education was useless began to see their children waking up early, eager to go to school. They saw their children writing, reading, drawing, dreaming. Slowly, they began to believe too. Rehan's simple gift created a ripple effect that changed an entire neighborhood. As months passed, people began supporting him. Shopkeepers offered discounts on stationery. Tailors stitched uniforms at low prices. Even his colleagues at work secretly donated small amounts, knowing he was doing something extraordinary. It wasn't charity anymore, it was a revolution of kindness, started by one man with one small idea. But it wasn't always easy. There were days when Rehan felt tired, when money was too short, when he wondered if he was doing enough. Some mocked him, saying he was wasting his time, that these children would never rise above poverty. But every time he looked into their eyes, every time a child said thank you with a smile that could melt stone, he knew he was on the right path. His faith never wavered. Years went by. The little boys from the tea stall grew. One of them became a doctor, determined to serve in the same community he grew up in. Another became an engineer, designing safe houses for families who once lived in broken shelters. The third became a teacher, returning to the very tea stall where he once studied to now teach others for free. Each of them carried the same memory, the day they received a bag that changed their life. And each of them credited the man who gave them hope when no one else did. Rehan grew older, his hair turned gray, but his spirit remained young. He would often walk through the town and be greeted by young men and women who once were those barefoot children. They would bow to him, call him uncle, and share their successes with tears in their eyes. Some would say, "Because of you, I believed in myself." Others would say, "Your bag carried more than books, it carried my dreams." One evening, the town held a gathering to honor him. Children who had grown into professionals, parents whose lives had changed, teachers who had witnessed the transformation, all came together. They surprised him with a plaque that read, "To the man who gave more than a bag, he gave us a future." Rehan stood there, tears streaming down his face, overwhelmed. He had never asked for recognition, never sought fame, but seeing the impact of his small actions filled his heart with gratitude. The story of Rehan teaches us something powerful. It shows us that true change does not always come from wealth, governments, or institutions. Sometimes, it comes from one heart deciding that enough is enough, that even the smallest act of kindness can grow into something beyond imagination. One man, one bag, one dream, that was all it took. Now, imagine if each of us took just one step to give hope to someone else. Imagine if each of us believed that our little contribution could light up someone's world. The truth is, we all hold the power to be like Rehan. We don't need millions. We don't need grand gestures. We just need to care. This is why his story continues to inspire people far beyond his little town. It has been shared across cities, countries, and even continents. People who hear about him begin initiatives of their own. Some distribute books, some sponsor meals, some teach underprivileged children on weekends. All of them carry the same message: hope is the greatest gift of all. And perhaps that is the most beautiful part of this story. A bag is just a bag, it wears out, it fades, it tears. But the hope it carried, the dreams it sparked, and the futures it built will last for generations. Long after the zippers broke and the pages filled, the children carried within them a flame that no hardship could extinguish. So, next time you wonder if your small action matters, remember this man. Remember the children who laughed with joy when they opened their first bag. Remember the girl who said she would become a teacher. Remember the boy who became a doctor. And remember that it all started with one man deciding to make a difference. The story of Rehan is not just his story, it is a call to us all. It asks us, what will you give? Not in terms of money, not in terms of things, but in terms of hope. Because sometimes, a gift beyond a bag is not measured in material, but in the lives it transforms. Thank you for joining us today in this incredible journey of kindness, hope, and inspiration. If this story touched your heart, share it with others so they too can see the power of one small act. Together, we can build a world where no child is left without a dream, and no dream is left without a chance.